Hello there, welcome to another Hops Handshakes. We are at Thorn Apple Brewing, correct? I'm with good friend Marisa, who I've known for 20 plus years.
Don't look at me.
Do you know the number? All right.
No, I'm not good at math.
Longer than I've known you for a while. Right?
Yeah.
I've known you for a while.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for taking a few minutes out today.
Thank you.
Cheers. What are you drinking?
Fruity drink, sangria. I have to drink, don't I?
You have to drink. It's not. You don't have to.
Can you do sangria warm?
I don't think so.
I've never
Maybe.
I've had sangria warm, and it's kind of like. I like that better.
It's a very cool
presentation.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I am having the Pacific Sessions IPA. Anyway, very good.
Yes.
All right. Well, again, thanks for coming today.
Thanks
We've
for
been
having
talking
me.
about this for a while, and to kick it off, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Who's Marisa?
It's a loaded question.
Yeah.
Well, I am an executive recruiter by trade.
Sure.
As you know. Started my own business about a year ago with my business partner, who actually happens to be my brother, my younger brother, which you also know. But yeah, I have a background in psychology. I have moved around, spent some time in New Zealand, spent some time in England, and ultimately came back to West Michigan.
You did travel quite a bit there for a while.
10 years.
10 years. Wow. How is the perspective like? How's your perspective of, because we're an hour from where we grew up here in West Michigan. How's your perspective now of where we live predicated on 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 15 years ago before you did all that travel?
Well, I think my perspective on the world in general is just different.
Yeah.
Not just on where we grew up, but I think something that I realized from traveling and living abroad is just that there are so many different people in the world, so many different beliefs, so many different viewpoints, different opinions, different ways
Sure.
of life.
Sure.
It's fascinating, and it does kind of tie into this fascination I've had my whole life with people and what makes them tick and what motivates them.
That makes sense. Okay, from your background too.
Yeah.
So you just have a more open mind about stuff, or just
I guess so.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not a very flexible person in my own life. I'm pretty stubborn.
Not a flexible person.
But I can appreciate that other people have different viewpoints.
That's an awesome statement.
Yeah. Anyway.
Your husband's gonna watch this and be like, "Yep, you got it."
That is true.
All right. So tell us a little bit about the business, right? Which is awesome. You took I met you. God, was it last winter when you made the leap?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
good memory.
talk about that winter. Winters in Michigan, it's 11 months out of the year, so I had to get right.
Omelets and coffee.
You got it. It was at Manny. It was at my satellite office. So talk to me about what you were going through, you making the jump, and then where you are now, and just that progression, because you've had to go through a roller coaster of emotions, a roller coaster of lessons. Like talk through the phases of that in some kind of way, or whatever pops in your head.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So I think what was really interesting for me is when I made that leap, it made sense at the time. And I think that as an entrepreneur, I had never really thought that things would happen in that way,
Sure.
where you would get to a point where it just made sense. I always thought it had to be really, really hard. It had to be a major uphill battle, which it is some days, but I had started out in recruiting with a global firm, and I had a really, really good foundation in what best practices were within the industry. And then I took a couple years out because I had kids and we moved to England. And then when I moved back, I joined a boutique kind of executive search firm.
Right.
So I learned a lot from that. And I just got to the point where I wanted some more flexibility. I wanted to try different things. And I felt like it made more sense for me to go out on my own than it did for me to stay there.
Yep.
And so I just decided to try it. And it was interesting because when I look back I started like 2 years ago. I had this idea when I was bored and I had kids that I wanted to start a jewelry line. So I did that and I tried it and I failed, right? I mean, in terms of like what we would consider to be successful.
Well, that's always something to be considered is like what your determination of success can be. But I guess apparently in your eyes you failed.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't something that was like a sustainable, viable, full-time career.
Okay, gotcha.
And in hindsight, I realized it was because it wasn't something that I really understood intimately. I didn't understand manufacturing. I didn't understand all of these pieces that were required to build that kind of a business, right?
There's a lot going on behind the scenes in a business.
Yeah, it'd be like if you all of a sudden one day were like, I want to make shoes, and I'm just gonna like start a shoe company, which you would probably figure it out because that's just your
with a lot of help.
Yeah, but it was way bigger than me, and it wasn't in my wheelhouse, and so where this was a different scenario is that it was in my wheelhouse, and I got to this point in my career where it just made sense.
Yep.
And it worked for myself and for my family to take that leap. So it was scary, of course, in some ways, but I had a lot of confidence going into it, and it was more of a natural progression.
What was scary?
Just the unknown, just like, how am I going to find new business? I think that's one of the biggest challenges that I face is how do I create this constant, stable flow of income and sustainable business.
Well, it's challenging for the startup entrepreneur, especially when it starts off, and some people, if it starts off as a one-person organization, like, you got to do a good job in the operation and fulfill what your clients are looking for, generate new business, and it's hard to balance all that stuff, right?
For sure.
I think anybody can relate to being like doing the work you're supposed to be doing, and then being stressed out, being like, this is done in like a month or so, and then what's next?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But I mean, you made the leap, and I think what you did though is you did something that you already knew how to do.
Right.
I mean, it was already like the operations and what it took from you.
Yeah.
Was something that you already knew how to do 90% of?
Yeah.
Okay, that helps.
90%, knock on wood.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, my business is, it's basically me at the end of the day, and the relationships that I build with candidates, with clients. It's not a product that I'm manufacturing, it's a service.
Sure.
And it's just myself and my business partner, and we have the same approach, we have the same ideas, we have the same values. So it's a very low cost, low investment kind of business. And so, I mean, I have to know my stuff because it's me at the end of the day.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So where would you like, are you happy with what you have now, with how the business is going? Is it something that you want to keep the way it is and have the blend with, because I know family's important.
Yeah.
You got 2 great kids, a husband, wife. You have a balance. Like, just because somebody says they want to be an entrepreneur doesn't mean they need to build the next Apple, right?
Exactly.
There's plenty, in fact, more suitable lifestyle businesses if you can get it going and you can kind of live life on your own terms more. If you get the right balance down, is that more you?
Yeah.
You're looking to grow this a little bit more. What is that when you think about it? What's next for you?
Well, I think for me right now, I just am trying to continue to learn and perfect what it is that I do, which is essentially matchmaking in a professional capacity. I mean, if I ever were to fail at this, I would probably be a professional matchmaker. That'd be my backup career.
Okay.
But, connecting people, just getting better and better at listening and reading people, reading what it is that they're looking for, what's important to them, and connecting them with the right
So
path.
you pride yourself beyond the invoice that's sent. Obviously, but you have to as an entrepreneur. But you pride yourself on really making the best connection possible.
Yeah.
So that's just
absolutely.
That's a constant progression, right? Like that's just, people are extremely complex, right?
Yes.
And organizations are extremely complex.
Yeah.
So, all right, what other, do you have like a simple, I mean, you're looking at culture, you're looking at the org chart, you're looking at how are you looking at that as you match people, right?
Well, truthfully, a lot of that is instinct.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you probably have data points in your head that you're looking for, but you're feeling a lot of it too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I am obsessed with people. I mean, I always have been.
Sure.
I've spent so many years of my life studying psychology, trying to really understand people. And so there's just like this ability that I feel I have. I feel kind of stupid even saying that, but to just like listen to somebody talk and ask them questions and really dig into, well, what do you like about your job? What don't you like about your job? And what do you want to achieve long term? And what does that look like for you? And how do you define that? And what are some of the words that you would use to define that? What does that mean to you? What does that mean to your life? And just really like peeling back the onion with someone to really get at the essence of who they are and ultimately matching that with the essence of that company and the leadership within that company, because there is just so much beyond a skill set when it comes to fit.
You can't put it all in a resume. Like, it just doesn't work that way.
No, and I think I would imagine you would probably agree with me on this. 9 times out of 10, you hire somebody because you like them, right? You feel like, oh, this person, I can see something in them that is going to bring value to my business personally.
Sure.
And even if you don't admit that, there's probably some unconscious or subconscious bias there that's telling you that that person is right for your company.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably more comfortable talking about the stuff in between the lines, like within the organization, and understanding where people's strengths are, and understanding how they communicate, and kind of working with it. Like, I'd never take face value of what somebody says. I think about why they said it and what the thought process is and believing like that. But like, I mean, I view it as building out for the marketing company. I view it as building out this team, and you've got these personalities, and where they're strong, we're like, just trying to put people in the best possible scenario, and and having different conversations with different people that we have on our team, predicated on what they need to hear, what they need to feel, the environment they need to work. And I think I think it's happened more the last 10 years in business, but these bigger companies I think they just continue with culture and, if you want to break down to the finance, to the CFO, it's retention. Yeah. And it's really beyond what you can put on a document.
Yes.
And it's like really paying attention to the overall vibe. I mean, at the end of the day, like, if you're working for an organization, yeah, you want to do well, you want to create amazing things, you want to go towards your strengths, but you also want to work at a safe place that you want to be there. People spend a lot of time in their work environment, right? And you hope your team wants to be there or be connected somehow.
For sure.
And then back to your point, like, you understanding the words that they use and some of the phrases and some of the things that they don't like, and like, how do you match that with environments? Because, I mean, businesses and the cultures, they're all over the board depending on who you represent or who you're in there, right?
Yeah, and even within that culture, there's microcosms of people and cultures, and every unique person has different reasons why they show up to work, and different reasons why they maybe hate their job.
Sure.
And so what I try to do is uncover, okay, what are those things? And a lot of the time, truthfully, people don't know.
They don't peel back the onion as much,
I pick up the phone. I mean, it comes down to personal awareness and insight, and not a lot of people spend time thinking about and reflecting on, what do I like about my job? What do I hate about my job?
No.
How would I define culture? I mean, these are questions that when I ask them, most people are kind of like, oh, I don't know. They don't have a
so you have
answer.
To ask a list of sub-questions to kind of arrive at your
and
overall answer.
I'll like oftentimes circle back on those things, but I call people out of the blue, and I'm trying to just get a feel for who is this person and trying to get them to open up to me so I can really get a sense of what is important to them and what motivates them and what drives them, and trying to match those things with the company. But so many people don't even know that, and it's different for every person. Some people really are motivated by money, purely money, and that's fine. Some people need flexibility. Their life situation requires it.
Sure.
Some people, are ideas people, and they need to feel like they're contributing and they have an opportunity to provide input.
Sure.
Some people just want to show up to work and do their job and go home. So it's really crucial.
It's not a one size fits all. All right, describe to me you've got several clients you've worked with, and you've had several successful experiences with the client. Can you describe? You don't have to list the client. Can you describe the moment, or I'm not going to call it a transaction. That's too. But the situation that happened where you're like, yes, that's why I went out on my own. That's why I do this. That's why that's why I did all that homework. That's why. Do you have one of those scenarios? You have?
I think I have them every day.
Holy moly, that's awesome.
No, I do. I think I have them every day because I literally work in my pajamas.
Sure.
At my laptop. I make however many calls I feel is required of me that day. I don't have to make 25 phone calls a day. I don't have to sit in some meeting that is not really an important meeting just for the sake of meeting.
That happens a lot in big companies.
Yeah. And I get to be there for my kids, and I get to make my own decisions. I think that's really the crux of it for me is, thinking about the things that are important to me in my career, and asking that question of people every day. I really reflect on that for myself, and being there for my family and being able to make decisions, do things my way.
That's awesome. What didn't you know a year ago that you know now as going into the business? Or what did you not give enough credit to, or what was a realization that you had? Maybe I feared something too much and it wasn't really that big a deal, or what, looking in the rearview mirror a little bit, looking at the past year, the progression of things that you were, the feelings and the thoughts you were having up until February, and then even when you were starting off, predicated on what you think now. Can you draw any parallels or some differences? Yeah,
I think in the beginning I was more fearful than I am now about not getting it right and making mistakes, and thinking that as a small business, if I don't do everything perfectly, that I'm going to lose all my clients, right?
Yeah, I know that feeling.
My clients are going to hate me.
Go ahead, keep going.
They're never going to work with me again.
Yep, they're going to tell everybody.
Yeah.
The world's going to over, and every billboard in the country is going to be a picture of Marisa's face saying she sucks, never hire.
Worst recruiter in history.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. But no, that hasn't transpired, and it's not to say that I haven't made mistakes, because I have. I think any time that you're building a new relationship with a company and you're working with them, it takes time to really get a strong sense of the type of person that works within the organization.
Sure.
And you do have to adapt as you get to know them more. But
well, you're leading with intent. You come from an intent, your intent is pure. It's look, I want to find the best possible scenario, and I'll do whatever I can to really make it match. Just by listening to you talk, the transaction is just there so you can take care of your family, do okay, and so you can just serve the next person you'd like to serve and make the best match. It's just you do it. You don't do it for the transaction. You do it for all these reasons, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
So, would you agree with this statement? Nobody knows what the hell they're doing.
True.
Nobody.
Well, you might. I don't know.
No. In some areas, yeah. But look at the best businesses around. Like Apple. Look at Mobile Me.
Yeah.
Steve, there's a famous story of do you even remember that, or were you remember Mobile Me?
I remember the name Mobile Me. I don't actually remember.
I don't actually know what you're talking about, but I'm like, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Let's take another sip of my drink while you tell that one.
No, it was it was 10 years ago, whatever. It was 12 years ago. Anyway, the best companies, no matter what, and you think they have things, they don't. They just don't. But you feel when you get out of the gate and you break away from being a part of something, and then you're by yourself, and you really feel like we're social animals. You know this, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of feel like a little bit vulnerable just because of the wiring of who we are as people, right? And then it's like, oh my gosh, you got to have everything figured out, else there's a target on my back kind of thing. And you know what? It's really not that case. Now, yes, you have to service, you have to work, you might have to work harder because you don't have the credibility and all this kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, I can tell you of the smaller companies that I know, and then against the larger companies, I'd say there's some, I can think of more smaller companies that are better run than I can think of larger companies better run.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because the clients that we work with typically are small companies, and I think that we're just naturally drawn to those kinds of companies, and they're drawn to us because we understand each other's challenges. So it's kind of like, okay, well, we're both imperfect in lots of ways, and we're both figuring things out.
Well, it's great that you did that. Like, we sit down in meetings where, like, we've got this whole thing figured out, all 25 people together in this one little department of the humongous company, and, sometimes all I see is overhead. And then I'm like, you know what I mean? But that's cool. Like, that's a nice niche. And I think, and the cool thing about the small business and determining on what your level of small business, how would you classify that? Give me
anywhere from 100 million is the sweet spot. I mean, that's not really a small business in a lot of industries, but in the commercial interiors industry, that's a small business.
Okay. 100 million says, okay. Well, what's cool about that is, especially 100 million and under 100 million, like we have in the marketing company, we have a lot of them between 20 and 80 million ish. We got a few over that, but like that, when you're 40 million in sales, 50 million, 20 million, under 100 million, like whatever you do has a dramatic impact. In those organizations, depending on what kind of business they're in, and obviously what you're talking about, like there's not a ton of waste when it goes into like whoever you're putting in there is in a meaningful position.
Absolutely.
It's not throwing somebody into a $10 billion organization and they can just kind of skate past it. So and it makes sense predicated on how passionate you are what you're doing, that you want to be working with people that we'd like to get this as right as possible, right?
Well, and I think too that when you're working with a company of that size, there's different ways that you can add value,
Yeah.
You're not just like plugging a hole in a company by finding a resume that fits, 13 check boxes and just saying, here you go, here's your person to just slot in. You're putting people into positions where, like you said, they're making a huge impact, especially in sales, which is where we tend to specialize.
Yes.
So, I mean, we just put 3 people in place in a brand new territory for this company where they've never had sales reps before.
Okay.
And that's a huge responsibility because they've got to hit these numbers. They've got to build up a book of business from nothing. And
it's the lifeblood of the organization, the sales team. That's cool.
Yeah. So I find that really exciting and interesting.
Well, whenever you develop and the relationships you have, again, working with specific businesses on an ongoing progression of work that you're doing for them, it's funny all the different conversations you get yourself into.
Yeah.
And to tell you the truth, me personally, I probably like those conversations more. Like you know that I like the different other stuff, high level. I just signed an NDA with a client this week because he's like, I want to share more stuff of what we're doing.
Done one of those.
And I'm like, well, whatever, sign the paper. Whatever, sure. But like, I enjoy that kind of stuff because you just want to be as meaningful as you possibly can for the business.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in a meeting yesterday with a client of ours with our project manager, and somebody new comes in and is like looking at the stuff and whatever, and is like, so you guys do the social media, and we're like, that's like we do this much, and that's piece. Like this much, like we this, but maybe we invoice you for that, but it's like all the other stuff where you just try to help out the business.
Definitely.
And just give them a different vantage point of like, hey, have you thought about this? That's the other thing. These businesses that you're like, you going into somebody's business, they're usually, I'm not going to say stuck, but they're usually siloed. And like, this is the way we view the things, whatever, and they never really look over to the other silos. And you working with multiple businesses, you'd be like, you know what, this is a pretty good idea what they're going over there. So just sharing that advice is a lot of value to them.
Well, and a lot of times companies don't have an accurate view of what it is that they should be paying somebody or
Sure.
what it is that they
Yes.
should be looking for,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, they'll come to you and they'll say, this is what we want, and we have to have this and we have to have that, and we want them from our competitors. And it's like, okay, well, I
That's a bold
understand that. But if you want me to go and pull these people from your competitors for you, you have to pay better than what your competitors are paying, and this is not it. It's not just about the money, but that's a big part of it. You can't expect somebody to leave a good situation for $20K less. So a lot of the work that we do with them is around, how to be competitive in the marketplace, how to make the job more attractive.
Why should they work for you predicated on the competitor?
Yeah.
We have good people, like all these
Exactly.
arbitrary things that the
Exactly.
story that they're telling themselves.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's really interesting for me because we spend a lot of time really like digging into the intricacies of that business,
Sure.
their story, their history, because that stuff is all valuable when you're talking to candidates in the marketplace.
Oh yeah.
What they've done, what they've achieved, where they want to go. People want to really understand the essence of that business. They're not just looking for a job, because these are people who are employed. I think where the market has changed and people maybe haven't kind of come to grips with it is we're at less than 4% unemployment now.
Yes.
This isn't 2009.
No.
There aren't hundreds of thousands of amazing people just floating around unemployed. And so a lot of companies will just put a job ad on Indeed and think that they're going to get, 150 amazing applicants. Have you ever posted a job on Indeed?
No, we've done it for clients.
Okay.
We've worked on that a little bit, but I find it, honestly, I find that comical, borderline arrogant that
Yeah.
they think they're just going to get 100 of the best people. And I always ask why. Why?
Yeah.
Why would somebody come? Get out of your own skin. But why would they? Well, this is a good job. What did you do to communicate that? How you
Yeah.
different? You know what I mean?
Well,
It's fascinating though.
part of that is not just why. I mean, that's part of it, but the other piece of it is they aren't seeing it, right? You could write the best job ad in the world, and those candidates aren't going to see it, because if you think about yourself, you're not. How many times do you check Indeed? How many times do you look on
No.
LinkedIn and do a search for job ads?
We've done that for clients where we take we get a fun-loving video together,
Yeah.
and we do Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn
Yeah.
targeted advertising. And if you think your demographics X this in this
Yeah.
industry, then we'll just share it with them on
Yeah.
that. At least, maybe link to an Indeed application, but. Think about the user behavior, what's going
Right,
on there.
exactly.
Not everybody. There's a reason why you're going to Indeed, and that maybe sometimes you can't find the best clients or
Yeah.
best candidates, I should say.
Yeah, well, and I mean, that's why headhunters like myself are successful, or I guess thriving right now in this particular market, is because you cannot reach those people that you want without literally calling them or sending them a message, because they aren't
One-on-one.
going to see it. Yeah, they
Yep.
aren't going to see it. They aren't going to know that there's this amazing job out there for them. And then they also aren't going to see, without really talking to someone who's knowledgeable, how it might align with their goals and what they want to achieve in the areas of their career
Sure.
that are missing.
Sure.
So,
Fascinating.
yeah. It's
Very
interesting.
cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right.
Yeah.
Couple questions.
Shoot.
I gotta remember them. All right. One thing that you've learned, or you could do two things.
Okay.
Again, there's not a whole lot of parameters to this
All right. I'll
shindig
try to
that we
keep
do
it to
here.
one.
One or two things that you've learned that you think could help anyone in any kind of progression. So high level
Yeah.
stuff, right?
Okay. Well, I'm going to go down the career advice path
Okay,
rather
career
than the
advice.
entrepreneurial path, because I
That's
think
fine.
I've talked a little bit about that already.
Yeah.
I would say that people have a lot more power than they oftentimes know when it comes to taking control of their own career path, right? So I think that,
Well, that's a new one. That's good.
yeah.
I like that.
I think oftentimes I get calls every day from people who want me to help them find a job and improve their situation. And I always tell them that there's so much that they can do themselves. They don't need a recruiter to find and uncover those opportunities. So first and foremost, I always tell people, use your network. People disregard their network all the time. They don't think about it.
Your network is your net worth.
Yeah. Wise words. Is that a quote from someone?
From one of my many mentors. He there's a few people that have said that, but yeah. It truly is.
Yeah, no, it is. And if you just take the time to really strategically think about, what do I want to improve? Where might I be able to find that? And then who might be able to help me get a conversation? And I use those words and those phrases intentionally, help me get a conversation started.
Yes.
Because there may not be a job there at that point in time.
But plant that seed.
Yeah. Have the conversation, make the connection with someone new, and see where that takes you in the future.
Sure. Very good. That's a really good one.
It's cheesy.
It's not cheesy at all. I mean, that's...
Yeah.
It's different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whatever, when you're talking about taking ownership, or you're like, there's so much you can do now, and it's just not stuff that's taught naturally in
Right.
where we, in school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, you want to get somebody's attention, figure out what they're struggling with, help them with that, and they'll help you, right?
Yeah, and if you're looking for a job, it's just like if you want to lose 10 pounds.
Sure.
What do? You set goals for yourself, you change the way you eat, you go to the gym, let's say 3 days a week.
Sure.
So do the same with your career and say, okay, I'm going to pick 5 companies that I'm interested in knowing more about. I'm going to see who I know there or who I might be connected with by second or third level connection.
Yep.
And I'm going to have I'm going to send 1 email a week, and I'm going to try to have 1 coffee meeting a week. And doing that level of activity and really being structured and systematic in that way will open up doors.
And I think people struggle with that because there's unknown. Mm-hmm. There's nothing guaranteed on the other end. And it's like, go do the work, go do the at-bat, and then put your head down, do it, come up for air in 3 months, come up for air in 6 months, and figure out what happened. Not everything in life is super transactional. Can you draw a data point right back to? Because I met with that person, because I met with this, because I did here, because I did there. Yeah. But if you just keep doing it, stuff seems to organically happen.
Yeah, it's just like sales, and I make this comparison all the time to salespeople because they understand it, which is, in order to reach a certain level of sales, you have to have a certain number of touch points out there for conversion rates.
Yes.
And it's the same with your career. If you want to find a new opportunity, you have to put yourself out there, just like dating.
Yeah. I'll let you talk about the touch points there. I think it's a fascinating thing though to really understand that, to where with the internet now, you probably know your next employer, or at least you can do the homework. If hey, I do this and this and this, and I'm interested. I'm going to go grab a cup of coffee and anybody who's in any kind of position where they're hiring is an idiot if they don't sit down and have a cup of coffee with you. If you actually had the proactive nature of wanting to buy somebody a cup of coffee, you know what I mean? I want to buy you coffee, 15 minutes, just want to make an introduction, whatever. And if that stands out, that is a 1% to 2% move. Nobody's doing that, right?
Especially in Michigan.
Yeah, a bit
West Michigan,
but
more specifically.
Back to your point, you're in control. You just have to do a little bit more than most people are doing, which isn't much.
Right.
It's you'd be surprised if you just ask what could happen.
I think there are a lot of people who, and I think this is just a general statement on our society, people want easy answers, they want quick fix, and it's no different when it comes to their career options. They want someone to tell them, I want to make this change, where should I go, what should I do, and they just want to apply online and have it be easy, and that's great, but it's not realistic in every situation. Sometimes it does work out and this perfect job is just sitting out there for you, but most of the time
that's not the norm. Yep.
And so the most successful people are the ones who really put in the hard work, and they plan and they organize and they, make a concerted effort.
Yeah, that's good. It's effort. It's just reps. Like I can tell you sales stories. I can tell you all different stories of where it's like, Jesus, if you're going to keep coming around, then all right, we'll do a gig with you, or we'll try something if you just frickin' leave us alone.
Yeah.
Crying out loud. You know what I mean? I mean, saying that facetiously, but part of your sales strategy to that person is your perseverance and your persistence.
Yeah.
And everybody flakes out. Statistically, it's 90% flake out after the third reach out, right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'd say.
It's probably higher than that.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So, like, there's a few people I've met with that have reached out to me like 10 times.
Yeah.
And I'm like, gee, okay, I need to reach out with you just because I admire the tenacity.
Yeah.
And I might know somebody that you could help with. I can't do it right now, but
Right.
like, I sit down with them anyway because I'm almost empathetic. I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
you got the hustle part. I'll give you that because I don't see that much, I'm
just curious, how have you hired your people?
How have I hired my people? My first marketing company was, I literally went and searched for a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
And I think I used Facebook and Craigslist at the time, part-time, because if you're a stay-at-home mom and you were looking for a job, I knew you could organize the business. And that's how we hired Sarah. And Sarah still is the mother of our organization. She is Mama Bear, and
awesome.
she is like, it's no different. So like, and I lucked out there. Ashley was pure networking. You were networking, a few other people we met. It's just, once you get critical mass of a network, stuff they start to come to you a little bit.
Yeah, well, connections, right? So you didn't
I cannot
place
tell
an
you.
ad, you didn't,
that was the first one, but I can't tell you. I'm always meeting somebody.
Yeah,
It's
I know,
probably more natural for me because I enjoy it. I enjoy it, but like, there's stuff that happens. You just can't put your finger on it, but he especially makes fun of me. Of course you know that guy. Of course you know that guy, but like,
you know everyone.
You drive that. No, I don't. No, you drive that land point, but like,
It's an active joke. Like,
Yeah.
you meet somebody new, you should ask if Isaac knows him.
Yeah.
Sure enough.
I will
can't
tell
believe
you.
I recommended someone to meet you who actually didn't totally know you. It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
perfect. But
digress.
no, it's the relationships. It's the organic culture. Like, it's the other thing. It's like you just can't. You got to put yourself out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's something that is really rewarding for me, that I'm really thankful for, and bring that up, is the relationships that I have with my clients, and that's something I enjoy about working on my own, is I get to pick and choose who it is that I want to support, and I only want to support people who want a partnership.
Yes. We're starting to do that more.
Yeah.
We made moves this year in our marketing company to do that more, where we've said thanks but no thanks.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun in a
That's
way.
good.
But,
No, I mean, I think that's an important part of
Yeah.
business, and that's probably my second thing that I would say, coming back to your question, that I've learned is, there's this quote from Simon Sinek, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's on my website, and
It's
it's
on your
about
LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, it's about knowing, working with people who believe what you believe, and who, saying no to
The goal
opportunities.
is not to work with everybody that needs your service
Yeah.
or needs what you
What you
have.
have.
The goal is to work with people that believe with what you believe.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
I read it like an hour ago. So like I read it.
Top of mind.
And I wasn't driving in my car, but I was reading my phone.
Sure. Stop late.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me is it's nice to be able to pick and choose and work with people that want to work with me, and to say thanks but no thanks to people who don't.
I've spent way too much time trying to mold to different things that weren't me, and then I bring our team in it, and I bring our team in it, and they're molding, and I'm like, this isn't worth it. I mean,
no,
not all revenue is good revenue, right?
No.
And a good buddy of mine, Bradley Hartman, who you know, and he goes, hey, IO, calls me Io. He goes, hey, you aren't for everybody, neither am I, and that's just
okay.
great. You know, like it was just cool, and that's cool. It's a good realization.
Yeah.
All right, last question, maybe, unless I think of another one. What would you tell your 18-year-old self, or what are you going to tell your kids when they're 18? Are they two different answers?
Probably.
Okay. Let's go with the first one.
No, I would say the first one would be actually in the same vein as what we're talking about before, is that not to spend so much energy worrying about being perfect and impressing people, right? I think I definitely spent way too much time in my life worrying about what other people think and not being true to my own ideas and thoughts. And looking back, I would say, life is full of mistakes. The pursuit of perfectionism is just a lost cause. Don't try to be perfect. Don't try to be what you think everyone else wants you to be. Just embrace what is happening.
I like that. I like that. I've been thinking about this too, but with that, I've gone through the same things that you're talking about, and it's like, if your pool is too small in the people in which you're engaging or the opportunities you have before you, you start molding yourself to fit that pool, to play in that bullpen or whatever it is. And the truth is, the world's a very big place. I'm thankful now at 21 Handshake that we are as beloved as we are within a specific industry that we were probably that weren't ready for some of the things that we're doing 5 years ago. So it made it a lot harder to grow the business if you're trying to sell against somebody that's really not quite there yet. Now it's very well received, which is great. But if I had to do it all over again, I would have opened up my mind to the world outside there that were people had what people were definitely just looking with somebody that they could trust to do some of the stuff that we did. But I tried to mold us. Now, looking back on it, we do a handful of things damn well. Because we had to in this area, so it made us better. But if I had to do it over again, it's like whatever you hear and you see yourself shifting and getting away from yourself, you're probably not thinking. You're probably playing in an ecosystem you're probably limiting yourself within the ecosystem. If you feel the need to do that. If you are who you are and you take action to expose yourself to a bigger, instead of the size of this glass, the size of this table, you will find more, just by sheer numbers and action and opportunities, you will find more, find more avenues in which you will be embraced. It's not a you problem, it's an exposure problem.
And it's, you touched on trust as well, which is, obviously a critical element of building relationships. And it's interesting because I got to a point where, I think maybe 2 years ago, where I was trying to keep up with everything and I was trying to put forward to my clients and my candidates, like, I have everything together, I'm perfect, I can do everything, right? And then I was struggling. I mean, what's that analogy? It's like the metaphor, the duck swimming on the water and like the legs paddling.
Oh, you're treading water.
But
what's the analogy?
It's like the duck, it's like they seem calm above the water, but underneath it's like they're
you got it.
pedaling their feet frantically.
Got it. Yes, I can.
Should I do that again?
That's okay. I've done far worse things on this show. I came in.
At least it's
I'm doing really good today. I'm being very well behaved today. Am I not? Thank you.
You're super profesh.
I don't know about that. That word doesn't.
Does that make me sound cool?
Profesh. Yeah.
I'm trying to be cool.
We're the same age. I don't know. You ask him for the coolness.
Well, I don't do social media, so you're way cooler than me. Anyway, I got to that point where I was really, really struggling, and then I got so overwhelmed that I just started being super honest with my clients. Like, they would call me after 5 and I would have the kids in the bath and I'm like, the kids are in the background splashing around being crazy, and I'm like, sorry, my kids are in the bath, the candidate's making this amount of money, blah, blah, blah. And they were into it, like I got a totally different response than I had expected, which I think I actually got a lot closer to a lot of my clients
110%.
through that, being that way, being truthful, being genuine, being authentic, because and not trying to, put forth this image that I had everything together, because they're like, oh, well, I don't really have, I'm doing the same things.
It made you more relatable.
I'm doing the same things, yeah.
Yeah.
So I continue to do that, and
Cool.
it's great. I mean, my clients, they all know all of my flaws and all of my strengths, and if I make a mistake, they're like, hey, you made a mistake. I'm like, yeah, I know, let's fix it, let's figure it out. Or, this isn't working, okay, well, let's adjust. And I just try to be more real.
Always
So
real.
that's my
Always
advice
default. That's
to my
good.
18-year-old
I like that.
self.
To your 18-year-old self. Same to your kids?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, don't worry so much about what other people think. Be who you are, and don't try to be perfect.
Sure.
And I do try to tell them that all the time. Unless,
but
of course, I'm
it's a
asking them to do
reinforcement
something. Then they must be perfect. Listen all the time.
Well, boys, I can't help you there.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Marisa, thank you so much for
Thank
taking a few
you.
minutes out. Where can we find you? Where can we connect with you? You got website, LinkedIn, right?
LinkedIn, I live on LinkedIn. You can find me there, or thesearchcollective.com.
Cool. All right.
New website,
cool.
refreshed,
Nice.
up and running.
Good for you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us here. Another episode of Hops and Handshakes. Alex, thanks for doing this again, of course. Back there in the background, making fun of me, laughing at me. But
Yeah.
anyway, I'm sure we'll see you again here very shortly. Thanks for checking us out.